and welcome to yet another VC Chat podcast episode. Will be a little bit different. Everything we recorded so far was live in our studio, but this one is going to be online call, and for a good reason. We have wonderful guest Vedran Rašić coming from Lead Delta, startup from Canada, and his story is something that you need to hear. And he will be glad to share during our conversation. That's why we're not sparing a moment, and didn't want to wait him to come to Serbia so we can record. We are now jumping on a Zoom call with Ved, and we're gonna talk about his startup, his entrepreneurial road trip down the lane, and there are a couple of lessons you need to hear during our talk here. So, without further ado. Ved, thank you for accepting the invite to VC Chat. I'm glad to have you here, and I'm super hyped about our conversation because I know you can deliver really good messages and really good story about you and about your company. So once again, thank you and welcome to the show.
It's a great pleasure to be here with you. We had multiple chats over the past XYZ months, and we discussed tactics, fundraising, hiring, many different things, and it'd be probably good to record some of it. So super happy to be here.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I'm hoping to do right now. So for the ones that who do not know you, who's Vedran, and how do you get to be to Canada? How you landed there?
So my name is Vedran Rašić. Here over the pond, they call me Ved. I'm a CEO and a co-founder of Lead Delta. We help B2B professionals sell more effectively through the combined power of their networks. And so we'll digest that a little bit later. But I started my entrepreneurial journey like 10 years ago. When I joined a software band, so to speak, in Serbia. I've done quite a bit of product development for others, and at one point I decided, hey, listen, I want to build my own products, and so I did that. At some point, I also decided that it's time for me to test out a different market other than Europe. Moved to Canada. It wasn't an easy road forward, but I had always, amazing network around me, which is the reason why I'm building Lead Delta. And I think, I personally don't believe in self-made people. I think, we are all made of amazing folks that surround us one way or the other. And so this is what definitely helped me on my path. I look forward to the future that's more interconnected and offers more opportunities to many different scales and phases of our society. So that's what I'm kind of trying to build and shape in the future.
That's perfect. And from the get-go, we have something strong about a strong message that there's no self-made people, but the people who made people around themselves. The network, again, that word comes up very often in the podcast and in the episodes right now. So you came to Canada. I flew over the pond. I did it myself. I know how hard can it get, but you managed to pull some endeavors and some serious things in Canada. And lately, the Lead Delta is something that you're building. What's your entrepreneurial journey, and what's Delta about?
Right. So how do you want a long story or short story?
Let's try this short and sweet one, but we will extend if we need it.
Perfect. All the way, the reason I really struggle with introductions because it's hard for me to. It's either I tell you something superficial, like hey, I'm a CEO and co-founder, or whatever, or do I give you like a bit more of a background so you know who you're dealing with. So usually I start like I had we're an immigrant family, from Croatia to Serbia, that type of part of the 90s. started from nothing. So I'd say, even though my parents worked for a government company, they're very entrepreneurial, coming from literally nothing a couple of times in their lives. So I think that grit and that struggle and that ambition, I guess, comes from them, and those early values. But somewhere in the 20s, or even like when I started university, I figured out, most of the folks at the university, what they're teaching, they're preaching, right? Like, to an extent, they haven't had any real world experience, and then they're just trying to convey a book to me, like, and I'm like, I can read myself, right? So even then I was a little bit more like, I want to get some real world experience. So I started like playing with different gigs. I had my own first digital agency, doing Facebook ads back in 28 29, so something like that, 2009. And so that was just before like the boom of all the other networks. So for example, I've been on LinkedIn for like, I don't know, like 15 years now. So that's what I used to do. And then I moved to Austria, Vienna capital. I worked there. I was a national sales lead for one organization called ISAC. I managed hundreds of people in an organization, managed a big budget. So I had that little gist of how things work in a big organization. And so I managed to negotiate with a CEO of Cisco for Europe, like national bank governor of Austria. So and I was 22 back then, by the way. So I had this exposure to what I really wanted to get is a real world experience, and in this case at a very high level. So that was an amazing experience. But I always knew I wanted to build something from 0 to 1, like from nothing to something. And so then I said, listen, I'm going to move back to Serbia. It's a very vibrant scene, amazing talent, and I want to start from zero again. And so I moved back. I worked with a few guys. We had an outsourcing agency. We were just literally the mediators. We would find business, find a supplier, bring them together. And I mean, if you think about it, it's actually super exciting when you're starting, all these different businesses where you don't have to invest a lot, but you can get disproportional outputs is interesting to begin with, right? And so I worked. We then merged with another business called Neopix, amazing friends, also investors, one of the investors in Lee Delta. And that was an amazing journey. But as I said, I always knew I wanted to build my own products. So the first attempt at building my own product was in 2015, 2016. So I was 25, 26 back then. I helped build a product that had to do with vehicle owners and repair shops. It's not a marketplace, but like an app that brings the two together. And this is where my first really hard-won lesson, came to be, which is we've invested like $300,000 into building something that intrinsically market didn't want or wanted in a different business model, different shape. So that was the first big lesson. But it was a tremendous journey that led me to Canada, as a matter of fact. And then all of a sudden, startup gone. Me as an operator, I felt extremely responsible for this, which obviously to an extent I was. And all of a sudden I'm in Canada, it's been a year, and now I have to go back broke with a failed startup, literally no money, obviously some health issues due to stress, all that kind of nonsense came to me, and I was all of a sudden back again in Serbia, in Belgrade. And you go through all the different reasoning, and we can dive deeper on that. But basically, I picked myself up, went back to Toronto, started another startup with my co-founders. The product is called AutoClose. We struggled in the same way, but we much better tested product and business model hypothesis. Eventually in 2020, we ended up exiting that business. So all the effort from the previous years kind of paid off. And I used the proceeds to start Lee Delta. So that's kind of a very TLDR, kind of what happened.
Yeah, I mean, again, even though TLDR is there, I think the story behind it, and as some lessons to be learned. And yet again, I cannot emphasize, and personally the matter important to me is mental health and the mental strength. And you said you failed, you came back home to pick yourself up. That's one of the important things. You come up, regroup, pick yourself up, as you say, and then move on to the next challenge. And that's in your DNA, as I see from not project to project. I will call it challenge to challenge. You have something in that drives you. And now, I think even though all the previous things that you did, and I think generally building the knowledge and building that entrepreneurial knowledge, culture, entrepreneurial yourself, you managed to learn a lot of lessons along the way that made Lead Delta successful as it is now. I think that key stepping stones in the process.
Yeah, so one really important thing I think that I keep talking about, for example, it's easy to read that you should launch your B2B product, and you should get it on the market as soon as possible. If you're ever going to charge for it, start charging immediately. This is all advice, right, that you get. But when you are to do that yourself, it's kind of hard to learn from a book, right? So, for example, when we were running that previous business, that car dealership, whatever business, we thought that we're doing the right thing, because one of the co-founders, he used to run a couple of shops, and his dad did run a couple of shops. So to us, it was like, he knows what he needs, like he knows, this makes sense, requirements, docs, all that. But from building the product to actually launching to at least some close group of friends, it took us a year. And in the meantime, we didn't test, the product hypothesis. We didn't test the business model hypothesis, which is, it's written in the book. This is how you should do it. And so what I did with Lead Delta instead, like I flipped the script, right? Like I did it completely, opposite from my previous experiences. So for example, first and foremost, like I didn't even build the code. I bought the code. Right. So I figured out what I want to do. And instead of like spending all that money on R&D, which you definitely want to do and want to have, but in due time, right? I went on and found a partner that was happy to sell his code base for what would become Lead Delta. And so then I got the team. Then I was able to visually explain what we want to do and what we want to build, and how's the MVP going to look like. And we were code to market in a month. And we started charging immediately, and we started getting feedback immediately. And so for a more complex solutions, if you want to launch a more complex solution immediately and you kind of have better market insights, fine. But still, like, launch it to a close group of friends, close group of people, industry professionals that you want to tackle later on, so you can get some feedback early on, because you might be thinking that something is worth money, something looks good, people would be willing to pay for it, but market will be the judge eventually. And it's comprised of so many different factors that you cannot factor in. And so that's why, and it's really like, and to me, another thing that I learned is like a bell curve, right? Like it's, if you imagine a bell curve, the customers that are the early users, that are the champions of the product early on, might not be the best perfect fit for the next role, is very important. And then tying that back to the roadmap and really understanding who's giving you the feedback and whether you should take that feedback wholeheartedly or consider that they're telling you how they want to improve and make a faster horse instead of building a Ford Model T, is also like a very, very important skill in the early stages while shaping your product. So this was all implemented and embedded into Lead Delta, and it wouldn't be like that if I didn't have that experience before, to be perfectly honest.
Amazing. That's the key thing. People need to learn from their mistakes, build upon them, not be shy of them, and tell the stories about them like you're telling right now. And just to people to understand, what is Lead Delta?
Yeah, so Lead Delta at the very moment, it's a product that sits on top of LinkedIn. And unlike many automation platforms out there that are like playing on a thin ice between them and LinkedIn, we help you leverage your first degree network. For power networkers, for teams that want to share their first degree contacts, we kind of help them do just that, with some bulk messaging, some tags, some notes, enhanced data, some signals that we send. So we basically help sales guys, marketing guys, VC folks like yourself to actually source their deals within their network, right? So we like to say, whether you're selling, marketing, fundraising, or hiring, you start from your network. And where is your network? Spreadsheets, back of your mind, WhatsApp, LinkedIn, all over the place. Past CRMs you don't have access to, all over the place. So we're trying to bring that together for you as an individual, and then for companies, bring their entire power together so they can refer, find the appropriate links to certain companies they want to close, et cetera, et cetera. So it's a long-term objective of ours to actually complement CRMs and ensure that you have the right signals and the right data who you should be going after. Again, whether fundraising, marketing, selling, or hiring. And kind of, think of it this way. So currently, when we're at the time we're recording this, it's still relatively fresh that Adobe acquired Figma, right? And this is a really good example because, for example, you have Adobe, which is Adobe Suite, which is a product for a designer. Only designer knows how to use it. It's built for them. And then you have Figma, which is literally built for the entire company because everybody can and should contribute, right? And so this is what we're trying to do with Lead Delta. Instead of having a CRM just for your sales guys, or having an extremely expensive CRM, we're trying to get you to actually get the whole company to collaborate on relationships, because that's what the company is eventually: systems, processes, and relationships, right?
Exactly. Yeah, I agree. I mean, as I listen to you for I don't know how many times now about Lead Delta, and now the thing that pops in my head is like you empower social capital, either from business perspective, which is crucial, or from individual perspective, again, which is crucial for our everything. Eventually, I mean, for our business life, our professional life, our individual life, our whatever part of life we have, we don't know how many people we know. I don't know. Even though I have like two CRMs, I do not know how many people I know and who can I leverage to actually get something and actually partner up or do business with. But with Lead Delta, you can manage everything in one place.
Absolutely. And that's a starter, right? Like that's what I keep saying. Like people are, so we have and listen, what's really exciting is we're not the only guys in this space. Like there's other folks that are now trying to build, and this is amazing. Excites me quite a bit. And there's one big differentiator. Some of the competitors, they started like going broad, like, so they embed all the data inside, like they give you all sorts of crazy amounts of data and nuances. However, just a tiny bit of everything. Our strategy is start with one thing, do it really well, and then expand. And so we started with LinkedIn because it holds the most up-to-date business data, which I think is important, because I don't want you to manually input stuff that's already known. Like, I don't want you to care about my email or my phone number or anything. What I do want you to care about is the signals that I'm sending, and if this is a fit for you and for me, and if we can make business there, right? Like that's what I want you to know. And this is what we're trying to build on top of LinkedIn, and then some of our own data sets and whatnot. But this is very, very early on in our journey. We've been around for, let's say, 2 years from that code launch up to now. And for the past 1 year, we've made quite a big progress, I'd say. We can talk more about that later, but
Okay, we could jump on that right away. I mean, how does Lead Delta stand by now with the customers? I know the reviews are fantastic. People are super happy using Lead Delta. How do you stand with the metrics and everything you track?
Very straightforward. So we started before. So when we started Lead Delta, we thought like, hey, this is going to be a bootstrap play. This is what we're going to do. And we're one of the only players in the space. We were actually better ranked than LinkedIn and Quora for certain keywords because we were unique. We took something that nobody else worked on to an extent, and we started running with it, right? And the term you said, like the social capital, is like we were the only social capital manager, and we were positioned that way. And so we managed to sell. We went on Product Hunt. We won the #1 product of the day. We managed to sell, like, in total, don't hold me for a word, but like over $300,000 within the first 2 to 3 months of running these lifetime deals. Lifetime deals, basically, for your audience, means like you basically buy the subscription once and you have it forever, with some limited updates and whatnot. So we managed to do that, just to get some of the cost back, some of the expenditure, and to be able to hire more amazing people and have some bandwidth. But then that community uncovered a much bigger opportunity, which is a subscription-based business for teams, where basically a company can have, all the people connect their social capital together. If you're, for example, running an ABM campaign, account-based marketing campaign, input all the companies and compare them against who do we know in these companies, things like that, right? Like, so all these roadmap opportunities started opening up. And then more importantly, the competition and the market started pushing even more for that. And we were like, interesting. So we can continue bootstrapping this and make it as lean as possible. But we could be outnumbered by the competitors and their rounds, right? Because they were raising like 3 million, 5 million, 10 million rounds, etc. And, just as a from the strategic point of view, we were like, okay, the battle is heating up. So let's see, we should probably get some more ammunition on our side. And so this is exactly what we did. We first and foremost, we started a second campaign on Product Hunt, this time with a subscription. We won the #1 product of the day on Product Hunt again. We at the moment we're playing at almost 100K ARR, annual recurring revenue. Our average revenue per user is like super cheap. It went from like $15 to like 19. So it's still a very, very cheap product, like no better way of saying it, right? Like it's affordable subscription. Yeah, it's affordable. Let's put it that way. And we sell to individuals. So we still don't sell to teams, right? So this is a big opportunity that got people, really rattled up about. So we had some venture capital offers, and people wanted to back us up early on. To be honest, we believe we know what we're doing up to 1 million, if not up to 10 million ARR, right? And so we said, listen, we just need a capital boost. We don't need, quite frankly, anybody to sit on the board at the moment, like, babysit us. We kind of know what we need to do. So we settled with an angel round. This is something that I don't think it was ever published before, but we're closing around at $500,000 at a $5 million post money valuation. We're very comfortable with it. We don't think we overstretch ourselves. We think it's just a fair evaluation. And on top of that, because we have offices in Canada and in Serbia, we were participants of the accelerator program in Serbia called Catapult, sponsored by
I wanted to come to that as well, the importance of acceleration and the importance of participation in the Catapult.
Right. So that was amazing. So I spent some time in Serbia, with the team, and it's just an amazing opportunity for local startups, because that money, that 300,000. So just to complete that sentence, so basically we have 500,000 and 300,000 in non-dilutive capital, right? Which is just amazing, right? You have to spend it in Europe, you have to spend it in Serbia, but nonetheless, you have that money. And either way, 60% of our folks are in Serbia. And so this really made sense. So with that, we believe we will be able to hit a product market fit and $1 million ARR by the end of next year, at the latest Q1 2024. And so we have crazy targets. We want to double every quarter for the next 4 consecutive quarters. So, almost completed the hiring round as well. And so that's where we are.
I mean, super ambitious goals. I mean, I wish you all the luck, and I will help as much as I can for you to achieve that. But what is you plan to use the capital and plan to use the network you build with Catapult and the resources you got through Catapult and through the acceleration, and how do you plan to actually achieve those ambitious goals? Do you have, I mean, you probably have detailed planned, the war plan outlined, but in general, you said you know what you need to do, and you just need to like do it.
I can just do it, exactly. You know, the key plan. So if you think about it, we're growing like 30% month over month. You know, around 30%. And so our churn is typically around 2%. I mean, on an annual basis, probably not ideal, but for our startup, and you know, when you benchmark it against others that are at the same stage, like we're by far at the top tier in terms of both retention, obviously, and churn. So, and we didn't even go to the team plan. So this is you know, we're completing the basic team functionalities by the end of this year. This will almost be like a product-led growth in itself, because we already have like over 50 teams lined up, you know, to purchase and to move forward, right? So because they love the product, they use the product, and it's useful to them as individuals, but now they want to sell into their teams, right? And once we sell into the teams, let's say like I sell into your sales team, but then, you know, I talk a little bit more about to you, like, you know, through the onboarding and the CX process, like we talk a bit more about your recruitment needs, and you connect me to your recruitment head, you know, then we get them on board, et cetera. So we slowly start winning bigger companies. And so this is going to lead the bulk of our go-to-market plan. In terms of other systems, supportive systems, we have an amazing search engine team, SEO team. We have an amazing sales team. Like all these guys are battle proven. They exited a company with me, and now we're together sitting in the executive you know, board of Lead Delta. So all these guys are hands-on operators, and so, you know, I have full trust in them. And so yeah.
The thing is that word-hardened people you have on the board, are they all stakeholders of Lead Delta? Do they have options? What keeps them motivated to be even more aggressive into the things they do, and follow you into the battle with super ambitious battle?
So first and foremost, so we always joke, when we present our job descriptions, it's the same for everybody. You know, we're like, you know, share the risk with us, commit, deliver, and, you know, get a part of that success, right? Basically, you know, get options. And at the very bottom, we say a good salary. So because if you're coming to a startup because of a job title or a salary, oh, you're gonna fail, right? Or if startups delivers on that, they're going to fail, right? Like it's you know, it has to be a different thing. And I'll just borrow the LinkedIn's founder saying. So he's like, to win an island, you need, you know, Navy SEALs or special ops. To torn down the city walls, you need an army, and to keep the peace, you need police, right? And so, you know, police comes at $100 million, you know, type of business, you know, or $100 million revenue business. So. But before that, at this very stage, you need special ops. And first and foremost, these guys are exactly that, right? So that's the number one motivator. So we are aligned with their personal needs and how they behave and how they operate. So that's number one. Number two, yes, they have options in the business, and you know, a solid, I'd say, salary overall. But like first and foremost, they have options in the business, and they can increase those options based on the success of a business, right? So everything is properly aligned. And yeah, like, I mean, again, Catapult helped there because, you know, we open up a DOO in Serbia, and, you know, we have a good structure there. So everything is properly aligned, I would say, and adjusted. Yeah.
Perfect. I mean, the key personnel early on in the startup, and what you call, and I really like it, the war-hardened people, special ops, those are the people that actually pull everything off. And for the ones who listen to us right now and never think about starting a startup, before actually going and searching for the problem, or if you know the problem, then trying to build a solution. Before you try to build a solution, you need to find the special ops to actually outline what you need to build.
100%. 100%. And so, for example, right now we're hiring for 3 roles. We're looking for growth manager, CX customer experience manager, and a sales manager. So those 3 roles we're still missing to complete the hiring. And literally this morning I talked to my team and I said, listen, I really don't want to rush this. Like, we can have, at this stage, we cannot have not even the army, let alone police, right? Like, we gotta have the right people. And if we can't find them, we're not going to close the roles. Like, I don't care. Like, we have to have the right people. And so there's one amazing lady that applied, for a particular role from a particular country. And she's just amazing in every respect, but she was only working for big companies. And, I really, I don't see how she'd fit in this particular environment, right? Like, and this is what we're trying to really understand on both sides, right? Because we can't have too many failures, and I cannot risk and jeopardize the culture we currently have, right? Because we're a close-knit team, we don't burn much on a monthly basis, and so I want to keep it that way, especially taking into consideration what's going to happen in the next 30 months, right? Like, what everybody anticipates going to happen. So, this is, everybody needs to deserve their place at Lead Delta. Like, that goes without saying.
Yeah. Do you think that if you have a strong candidate for that position, but the thing is that person never worked for a small, lean, agile team, that you're missing out on getting the processes, getting the potentially the experience of the big company that can be early on implemented in your company early in the life cycle. Do you think that maybe that's something that you're missing, or you're searching for specific people that worked in small teams that are ready to work on different level for Lead Delta?
Good, valid point. I think I like, what we want to have is somebody that's, like we said, like, battle proven at a certain stage. And so, for example, for different roles, we have people that work in bigger companies, but they also have this, like, remote first, hustle hard, like, don't care about the hours, just produce the results type of mentality, right? Because, like, when I tell them, hey guys, across our offices in the contract, it says that you have 20, paid days off in a year. However, you have unlimited number of well-being days. I don't want them to be like, the fuck? Like, I don't want them to be like, what's that? Right? Like, I want them to understand what that means without a lot of explanation. And that means get your shit done, get your team aligned. And, if you're close to getting, burning yourself out, you got to be responsible enough and aware to make sure, like, you pull out a break and you go for 4 days. You go out, you don't look at your email, you don't respond, like, you chillax, and then you come back, full steam ahead. Like, this is the type of mentality that only special ops understand. And again, I'm not saying that these guys are not important, but not at this stage. They're not important at this stage. And for example, for processes and systems, I'll give you a nice one, because I struggled so long with this. As a CEO in a startup, like, you have to be a leader, but you also have to be a manager, right? You have to be both. And some are good at something and others are good at something else, right? Like, and so I really needed help on the management side. I really needed help. And I'm not shy to say that. So I found, for the first time, I'm so happy, like, I found a chief of staff, a person that I've known for like 12 years, if not more. Like, we worked together, we were in different industries, different everything, but she's just awesome at ops, like at operations, meetings, agendas, projects, special projects, like all these different things, but in a different industry. So, for example, I took a bet on that person to transfer them into tech, and to have them as my right-hand person, one process, one system at a time. And so, for example, this would be, something close to what you're saying. Like, I brought somebody to help set the early processes, and it would be a chief of staff role.
But yet again, you found that person from your network that you knew before, that you trusted. You used your social capital to get to that person you needed. I understand, and I completely agree with that. I know how hard it can get to actually find the right people. I mean, right now the talent, what they now are referred to talent wars, especially in Serbia, as you know, is tech talent and everything related to IT industry. Super heavy, super difficult to find. Again, speaking from experience, I know how hard it is to find the right people. And the best people come from your network as recommendations. And you've proven that case one more time. So coming back to Lead Delta and everything else, you said currently you have $100,000 of annual recurring revenue. Then how many people you have on staff right now?
So right now, let's say there's 20 of us in total, including active advisors. Like when I say advisors, like for example, we have a development advisor that actually codes, right? Like he's not like just preaching and just whatever, but he's actually helping us implement certain systems. So we have 20 people between full timers and contractors and whatnot. So yeah,
100K annually, 20 people. Ambitious goals to get 1 million in 30 months. Expanding the team as well. So where the people can find the job descriptions? Can you find on LinkedIn? 18 months. Sorry, what did I say? 30. Sorry, 18. 18. Apologize.
I wish, but the clock started ticking.
I'm not worrying about that.
I appreciate that, man. So we have job descriptions. It's a Google Docs form. It's on my LinkedIn on the post, but I'll share it with you so you can just share it with the folks or like however you want to do it. But
we will link it in the description of this video so people can actually follow up with that. And ambitious goal is slowly wrapping up our conversation, and you sum up what we talked about. Or if I can, that's ambitious goal for me now. You've been through different phases of life. You had failed business, you had one exit, then you're trying right now building Lead Delta with the goal in mind to have 1 million ARR in 18 months, less than 18 months, with currently 100K annually. Fundraising, there's still room for everybody to join the round as angels as well.
As of the end of this call, probably that it's done. Yeah, that's it basically. We're finalizing it. We're having one bigger check coming in, and that's we should be done by the end of this day. So, but people should
amazing news.
Let's set the expectations for the next round and start the chat, right? Start the social capital.
Yeah, exactly. Start early on. Use the community. You have ambitious plans. Close the round, preparing to scale, and everything else. Out of all the office you had, all the experience you had, what are the key messages, some advices you have for anybody starting the business today, or thinking about starting a business today? What are maybe one or two, whatever you have as an advice for young people or the people actually starting the business?
First thing, don't stay too long in your head, because whatever you're doing building, it's not meant to stay there. It's meant to be on the market, helping people solve certain problems, make money, save time, whatever, comply, whatever the goal of your product is, like it is meant to help somebody. So take it out on the market as soon as would be the first advice, because there's so many things to test. And the two most important things is like, is this product really needed? Can you really build it? So, first one, you have to talk to customers. Second one, you need to motivate people to join you. And then you have to figure out, can you make money out of it? Like, can you sustain yourself out of it, right? Can you tokenize it? Like whatever, but you have to get something back. You have to get some value back, whatever that value is. So, it has to be able to pay your mortgage, pay your bills, like whatever, right? So sustain your livelihood so you can keep building. So that's kind of those 3-4 things like you have to keep in mind. And in order to do it, like you can't just stay in your basement and just like work on it and without talking to people. So you have to go out, whether that's like forums or conferences or, neighbors, whatever, but you have to get out and talk to people. So I think that's really important. And then, accept the fact that you're not, there are things that you excel at and there are things you're poor at. So figure that out as early as possible, right? So figure out who you really are, and that will help you to find a match, a co-founder, because, hey, you can live life by yourself. That's amazing. But truly everything is easier in 2 or 3, right? And so we know the data says that, founders that have co-founders, right, are much more successful than the ones that stay by themselves, right? So it's just the data that says. I'm not saying that it's impossible, right? But so figure out who you are, find out the matching side, start testing as early as possible, start talking to other folks as soon as possible, figuring out if this is going to work, not going to work, and don't go too much into anything. So basically set the deadlines and be like, okay, so this next 3 days, I'm going to talk to as many people as possible. Like make it your life's mission to talk to as many people as possible. Don't think about, ponder about life, relationships, this, that, just go and talk to as many people as you can. Gather the data, make the decisions, move on. You'll never have all the information that you need to make a decision. So just, you are in the business of making decisions and making bets, right? So that those would be like a first few, without me going, I could go on and on, but like these would be the first initial advices, right? Like, but you have to figure out who you are, and that's where it starts with.
I mean, I agree. I mean, all the points are completely on the spot. But when you fundraise with this 500K, what's that experience? Do you have any advice regarding the fundraising for people if they're gonna, how are you gonna take and assess the capital you're gonna take?
Yeah, so here's one advice. So always, speaking of social capital, always have a network around you that is vetted over the years that can support you, because you will shorten the distance from zero to somebody you can trust with more experience. And so I'll get to the point. And the point is, you want to have the right advisors. You don't want to have too many of them. You don't want to have 5, 10, 15 when you don't even have a product. But you want to have one trustworthy person that you can trust, especially with their proven track of record in certain things. So for example, when it comes to fundraising, I never fundraised a dime. So the hell do I know? I can learn, and I can learn fast, but I can also get some help so that everything is structured properly from day one. And this is what I always opt in for. Like, as long as we grow the cake, I'll split it, man. Like, I have no issues with that. So let's just create the value. And so this is exactly what I did. So I have a founding investor, so to speak, or a person that helped me out, like structure everything and make sure everything makes sense. And then we attacked it with a full force. We completed it over the summer. Everybody said, oh, it's going to be, it's summer. People are going to be away. Like it's crisis time. Like, people are preserving money, blah, 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 blah. We managed to close the round exactly as planned. And so, but would I be able to do it by myself? Maybe, but a big maybe, right? Like, I've never done it. So to me, it was really important to have that support network, somebody that I can work with who has experience in this. And so that's what we did. And so that would be my suggestion, right? Especially if you're coming. So if you're in Palo Alto and you never fundraised, but your first 100 neighbors fundraised and you kept listening about it, and you went to social events where this is the only point of discussion, then maybe you don't need help. But if you're coming, I don't know, like from Central Eastern Europe, and you haven't raised as much, maybe you want to run this by somebody is my suggestion, right? Or any other place that is not having a ton of fundraising activity, I would say.
Yeah.
Does it make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense, completely sense. I mean, I had startups actually doing so. They turned up to me, say, I need to fundraise. I don't know how. I don't know what are the options there. Who do I ask for capital? How do I approach them? How do I structure a deal? What's the term sheet and so on? What are the standardized terms? How do I do not get screwed over in a deal, and you need to watch out all the things. And mostly what I experienced from talking with founders, it's lack of understanding the cap table and the cap table management, the math behind it, and how that actually affects what's going to happen in 5 years. Usually, again, the founders coming from Central Eastern Europe who did not have that experience fundraising, usually we don't have that cap table math and that literacy about that aspect of business. So all of that can be helped about advisory.
You have to pay taxes, right? Like I have to pay, right? And so the question is, do you want to waste your time on fundraising and forget what's your purpose? Like you're not a chief principal fundraiser if you're a startup founder. Yes, this is one of your to-do lists, but what do we say? What's the first step? Figuring out who you are and what you're good at. And so you do what you're good at, and maybe that's raising money. Fine, then maybe you're running a fintech, but that's the thing. So for me, like I said, I just for the audience, maybe somebody, well, I'm sure a lot of your listeners will know, but like, for example, I worked with Tiho Bajic, like a big I would say celebrity in Europe for our startups, and a person that leads a startup that started by him, and Eric Rice and Reese and amazing folks. And so to me it was a no-brainer. We worked together on a couple of projects. I know his track record, and so I was like, Tiho, let's figure this out. And so we did it. So that's what I would say to young founders. Like, for example, you are a knowledge hub, like literally, and you have a ton of experience, and you've been abroad. You're now in Serbia, like developing an entire ecosystem. People should feel free to approach you, right? And maybe it makes sense for you to help. Maybe it doesn't make sense because you're focused on some other things. But like, people should ask for advice if that's not their forte, right?
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I always try to actually help people, and kudos to Tiho, who actually did a tremendous job for not only for the representation of our Serbia through Serbian Entrepreneur Network, but also impacting this ecosystem in Serbia. Or should I said Vedrane, thank you so much for the great conversation. I really enjoyed it, as I always do. I think ton of things, ton of interesting things and advices have been shared in this conversation. Thank you for sharing it, first of all, and thank you for your time on being on the VC Chat podcast.
Thank you so much, and I'm gonna get you the hoodie next time I'm in Belgrade.
I'm gonna hold upon that, hold you on that word, and ending on that positive note, for everybody watching up to this point, the VC Chat podcast. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. I hope you enjoyed this conversation. I think it was intriguing and interesting conversation with Ved. And lastly, special thanks to Ministry of Youth and Sport of Republic of Serbia and Serbia Innovates project funded by USAID, who actually helped us push this podcast from the ground up, and they were with us from the beginning. So kudos to them for sponsoring this podcast. And once again, thank you all, and see you next time. Bye.